To take over the family aviation company, Grandpa made me rotate into the flight attendant position for a week. On my first day of work, I encountered a man waving a super VIP card and throwing his weight around with the flight attendants. Do you know what a super VIP card means? It could buy all your lives. Such a shallow bow. Do you have a lumbar strain or are you looking down on me? 90 degrees. Hold it for 100 minutes. What kind of pig slop is this economy class food? Let me treat you all to some premium additions. I was about to intervene when a flight attendant beside me stopped me. He's the older brother of our general manager's little assistant in our airline. The flight attendant mysteriously pointed upward. Offending General Manager Carter still leaves you a way out, but offending his little assistant, you'll die a miserable death. I was dumbfounded, almost wanting to laugh. I picked up the satellite phone and called Grandpa. Grandpa, notify the captain to land at the nearest airport. When we land, I want to see my divorce papers from Carter. Today was the first day of my secret rotation. I stood at the aircraft door, maintaining a standard smile to welcome passengers boarding. Most passengers nodded at us kindly, until a man wearing a pink tweed Chanel suit appeared at the jetway entrance. He was holding a shiny VIP card, his critical gaze sweeping me from head to toe. New here? No wonder you have no manners. Do you know what a super VIP card means? It could buy all your lives. Such a shallow bow. Do you have a lumbar strain or are you looking down on me? 90 degrees. Hold it for 100 minutes. Following standard procedure, I bowed slightly and showed a professional smile. Sir, good morning, welcome aboard. Just that one word, sir, stirred up a hornet's nest. He stopped abruptly, his voice affected and theatrical. How should I put this? In this flight attendant business, just selling smiles won't cut it. You need more discernment. He pointed at his entire outfit. Look at me from head to toe. Which part looks like a sir? Call me Miss Jason. Rachel, a senior flight attendant welcoming passengers beside me, turned pale and quickly tugged at me, stepping forward with a 90-degree bow. I'm so sorry. Hello, Miss Jason. She's new and doesn't know the rules. Please don't take offense. The man snorted coldly through his nose, rolled his eyes at us, and walked into the cabin. Rachel quickly whispered in my ear. This person is Jason Brown, a super VIP member of our airline. We must serve him well, otherwise if he complains, our entire crew will be in big trouble. I was stunned. Our airline had only issued 3 super VIP cards total. 2 went to Grandpa's old friends, and the other one, I had clearly given it to my husband, the airline's current general manager Carter, for him to use for the most important business receptions. But why would Carter give the super VIP card representing the airline's highest courtesy and absolute trust to this flamboyant Jason? I suppressed the shock and churning emotions in my heart. Right now, ensuring the flight operated smoothly and taking care of all passengers was my primary duty. This was also a good opportunity to see how, under Carter's brilliant leadership, this VIP with his platinum card threw his weight around, and what exactly the frontline staff were enduring. Right after takeoff, Jason immediately pressed the call button. I walked over. He crossed his legs, not even lifting his eyelids. Get me a glass of warm water, 45 degrees, not 1 degree more or less. I need to take my medicine now. I immediately went to prepare it, but because I needed to mix cold water to adjust the temperature, it took an extra minute. Just that 1 minute made him explode. When I hurried over with the water, he slammed the table. What kind of service attitude does your airline have? Look at the time. It's been a full minute past when I should take my medicine. I'm taking birth control pills. Do you know what happens if I miss the time? If I get pregnant, can you take responsibility? All eyes in first class instantly focused on him. Although Jason wore heavy makeup and a dress, his prominent Adam's apple and angular facial features made it obvious to everyone that he was a man. I struggled to maintain my expression. Miss Jason, I'm very sorry, but adjusting the water temperature does take time. He snatched the cup from my hand and ruthlessly splashed the water directly on my chest. With your stupid pig brain, I really don't know how you serviced your way into this position. I bet you've provided plenty of special services to the captain, haven't you? Disgusting creature. Just wait for my complaint. My clenched fist dug nails almost into my palm, rage surging to the top of my head. Just as I was about to lose control, Rachel rushed forward and blocked me. I'm sorry, Miss Jason. She really is new. I apologize on her behalf. Please don't get angry. It's not worth damaging your precious health. While speaking, she secretly gripped my wrist, pleading in a voice only we could hear. Hold it in. Don't be impulsive. Think about his complaint. Our entire crew will have bonuses deducted or even be grounded. It's not worth it for this scum. Leave it to me. Seeing Rachel's submissive manner, Jason finally seemed to enjoy the pleasure of being above others, leisurely pulling out a tissue to wipe his hands. At least you veteran employees know some manners. He said in a condescending tone. Fine, I'll accompany you to the galley. The galley? Aircraft catering had strict safety and hygiene regulations. How could we let him enter casually? Miss Jason, passengers cannot enter the catering area at will. That's the regulation. I tried to dissuade him. Before I finished speaking, Rachel tugged at me again. Don't you understand yet? His sister is Eve, our general manager's favorite little assistant. In our airline, offending general manager Carter still leaves you a way out, but offending his little assistant Eve, you'll die a miserable death. Carter listens to her every word. Everyone in the company is saying she'll be the new Mrs. General Manager sooner or later. Whether we stay or go is just a matter of one word from her. You're still in your probation period. Don't be stubborn. The new Mrs. General Manager? My husband Carter's new wife? Seeing me pause, Jason thought I was scared and immediately sneered sarcastically. Oh, scared as soon as you hear Carter's name? Let me tell you, someone like Carter isn't someone bottom feeders like you can provoke. One word from him decides your life or death. Understand? In the few seconds I was stunned, Jason had already barged into the galley. TSK, what kind of pig slop is this economy class food? He disdainfully picked up a piece of vegetable with his fingertips, looked at it, then flung it away. Then he pulled out an exquisite metal canister from his bag, tapping the canister with his nails. Looking at how poor they are, they've probably never seen anything good. Forget it, I'm in a good mood today. I'll treat them to some premium black truffle powder, let them broaden their horizons. Saying this, he unscrewed the canister, and was about to sprinkle it on the meals. Miss Jason. Absolutely not. The purser finally couldn't hold back. She stepped forward, her tone anxious but extremely firm as she blocked the meal cart. Aviation food safety regulations strictly prohibit adding any outside food or seasonings to crew meals. This is for the safety of all passengers. Please understand. Regulations? Safety. Jason acted as if he'd heard the biggest joke. My stuff would be less safe than your garbage food? Do you know this canister costs more than your annual salary? Get out of my way. The purser held her ground. Miss Jason, this is a matter of principle. If anything goes wrong, we can't bear the responsibility. Please don't put us in a difficult position. Seeing the purser dare to obstruct him repeatedly, Jason's face instantly darkened. He pulled out his phone and directly made a video call. Eve, look. These flight attendants have rebelled. I just want to add some seasoning to the food and they won't let me. They even dare to talk back to me. Through the speaker a sweet voice came through. Jason, don't get so upset. Give the phone to the purser. Jason smugly shoved the phone in front of the purser. Eve's voice instantly turned ice cold. All flight attendants kneel down and apologize to my brother immediately. Otherwise, every single one of you today will be fired for serious misconduct and permanently blacklisted from the aviation industry. I mean what I say. The air in the galley seemed to freeze. The purser's lips trembled, tears of humiliation welling in her eyes. Rachel and several other flight attendants turned pale, exchanging glances, their eyes full of struggle. Seeing their hesitation, Eve laughed coldly. Fine, you won't kneel? You're that stubborn? Just wait. Immediately after, the video screen began shaking violently. Eve actually picked up her phone and directly barged into the airline general manager's exclusive conference room. When the video stabilized, the conference room came into full view. Around the long conference table sat company executives with serious expressions, with the second half of the year's strategic planning PPT displayed on the projection screen. Carter was sitting at the head position listening to reports. Seeing Eve suddenly burst in, he first showed slight surprise, but his eyes held no displeasure at being interrupted. Instead, they instantly filled with deep concern. Carter, Eve ignored the shocked gazes of all the executives in the room, and walked straight to Carter's side, practically collapsing against his chair's armrest. Look at these flight attendants on the plane. They're ganging up to bully my brother. My brother just made a small request, and they were mean to him and even scolded him. My brother has a bad heart. They've made him cry. Carter, you must stand up for us. As she spoke, she leaned into Carter like a boneless creature. Tears fell like broken pearls, as if she'd suffered the greatest injustice. She was completely different from the sharp-tongued person she'd been moments ago. Carter's face immediately darkened. He didn't even ask about right or wrong. All his attention was on Eve trembling and crying in his arms. There, don't cry. Your eyes will swell up and won't look pretty. Such a small matter. Is it worth crying over? With me here, no one can bully you or your family. He gently wiped away her tears, then raised his head to look at the phone screen, his tone dropping to freezing. Are you all deaf? Didn't you hear what Eve said? I'm ordering you now. Immediately do as Mr. Jason requests. Kneel and apologize. If within 3 seconds I don't see your attitude. Before he could finish, I walked directly into the center of the phone camera. My figure, along with my calm expression, appeared clearly in the video. Carter, are you sure you want me to kneel? Helen Jones. Carter almost blurted it out. Like a thunderclap, it seemed to give the desperate flight attendants a glimmer of hope. But it was fleeting. The surprise on Carter's face was quickly replaced by deeper displeasure and irritation. He didn't even let go of his arm around Eve, just impatiently rubbed his brow with his other hand. Helen, what are you doing here? The new job you told me about last night. Was it to be a probationary flight attendant at my airline? I nodded calmly. Carter's gaze swept over my wet uniform, his voice dropping. Stop fooling around. Just do what Mr. Jason says and apologize. We'll talk about whatever it is after the plane lands. As soon as he said this, not just me, even the flight attendants in the galley were stunned. Their eyes went from shock back to despair, finally left with only numbness. Seeing this, Eve immediately shrank further into Carter's arms, adding fuel to the fire. Carter, so this is Helen. She was so fierce just now. Jason must have been scared by her. Carter immediately patted her back comfortingly. Eve and Jason are both very innocent and simple-minded. They just want an apology. Be good. Kneel down and apologize to Mr. Jason first. Don't make this difficult for me. I looked at him and suddenly laughed, though the smile never reached my eyes. Ice cold and piercing. Carter, do you remember what you promised me on your knees before we got married? Now, it's time for you to fulfill your promise. Without waiting for his response, I hung up the phone. I didn't linger for a second, turned decisively and walked to the crew storage locker. I took out a heavier satellite phone from the locker. Grandpa. Someone is interfering with normal cabin service procedures and disrupting aircraft order. Notify the captain to make an emergency landing at the nearest airport immediately. Also, when we land, I want to see my divorce papers from Carter. Jason stared at my hand holding the satellite phone, stunned for 2 seconds, then covered his mouth and laughed mockingly. Oh my newbie, what are you pretending to be? Holding a broken satellite phone and playing rich? Calling Grandpa? His eyes were full of contempt. Do you know who Carter is? In this aviation circle, when he stomps his foot, the ground shakes. I sneered coldly, not even glancing at him. Carter? He's something. Years ago, Carter's grandfather had once helped my grandfather. The Jones family valued old friendships and remembered this favor for a lifetime. So when Carter's family fell on hard times and Grandpa came to me, hoping I would fulfill this arranged childhood engagement. Seeing that his abilities were passable and he seemed honest enough, I nodded in agreement. Before the wedding, I called him to the study and made things crystal clear. Carter, loyalty is my bottom line. If you ever have second thoughts or do anything to betray me, I will divorce you immediately. How did he respond then? He knelt before my grandfather, swearing to heaven that he would never fail me. If he violated this oath, may heaven strike him down. He would leave with nothing and never rise again. My grandfather and I also kept one card up our sleeves. We didn't tell him about the Jones family's true wealth. So Carter always thought I was just an ordinary rich girl. He believed even more that his position as airline general manager after marriage was entirely due to his exceptional ability and hard work. Stupid as a pig. Today I would let him see clearly, without me, what exactly was Carter. Grandpa's voice came through the receiver, steady but with a trace of barely perceptible gravity. Have you thought this through? Yes. I didn't hesitate for a moment. Grandpa was silent for 3 seconds, then instructed someone beside him. Do as Miss Helen says. Execute immediately. Almost the instant the words fell, another calm and efficient male voice cut in. It was Simon, Grandpa's most capable assistant. Understood, Mr. Jones. In the background, keyboard typing and clear commands immediately followed. Tower, Flight G1024 initiating highest priority emergency landing. Clear the airspace, priority routing. Legal department, Carter leaves with nothing. Divorce papers to be delivered to the landing airport VIP passage within half an hour. The security department and I will immediately proceed to Elvis Airport to await Miss Helen's landing. The orders were clean and efficient, without a trace of hesitation. Simon's voice came through last. Miss Helen, everything is ready. Landing at Elvis Airport in 30 minutes. Information on the Platinum Card troublemaker and the associated person Eve will be synchronized to you within 10 minutes. Hearing the clear instructions from the phone, Jason laughed mockingly again. Haha, clearing airspace? Keep acting. Keep it up. Let me tell you, when we get off this plane, my sister will say one word to Carter, and you won't even know how you died. However, before his laughter died down, the aircraft announcement sounded again. This time, the captain's voice carried unprecedented seriousness. Attention all passengers, attention all passengers. Due to force majeure factors, this flight will make an emergency landing at Elvis Airport. Please return to your seats immediately and fasten your seatbelts. The mocking smile on Jason's face instantly froze. He frantically pulled out his phone to call Eve. Before the call connected, 2 security officers quickly walked in and directly confiscated his phone. Mr. Jason, you are suspected of endangering flight safety. Please cooperate with the investigation. Just as Jason was being escorted out, I received a message from Carter. Helen, enough is enough. Eve is very innocent. She would never make unreasonable demands like you. I'm telling you clearly, I love you. But I need to be with her for at least 3 years. During this time, you'd better behave yourself, do your duty, and don't cause me trouble. After 3 years, if I'm tired of her, I might consider returning to the family. Don't forget, without me, Carter, you Helen are nothing now. I picked up my phone and replied calmly, Carter, get to Elvis Airport within 30 minutes. I have a big gift to give you. Of course, you can choose not to come. Then I'll hand Jason over to the police. After sending it, I blocked Carter. The cabin of Flight G-1024 went completely silent after the captain's emergency announcement. The passengers in first class were frantically adjusting their seatbelts there, faces pale with confusion. Only Jason Brown sat in his seat, his pink tweed jacket slightly crumpled, his heavy makeup smudged from the sweat of his sudden panic. 2 burly sky marshals stood on either side of him, their hands resting near their utility belts. You can't do this, Jason hissed, though his voice had lost its theatrical pitch and now sounded thin and desperate. I have a super VIP card. Do you know how much money my sister handles for Carter? She's the assistant to the general manager. You're all going to be fired. The marshals didn't even blink. Sir, please remain seated and keep your hands visible. You have violated Section 49 of the Federal Aviation Act by attempting to introduce unauthorized substances into the aircraft's catering system. In the galley, Rachel and the purser were staring at me as if I had suddenly grown a second head. Helen. Rachel's voice was barely a whisper. She looked at the heavy satellite phone in my hand, a secure military-grade device that was only issued to the board of directors of the Jones Group. Who did you say you called? My grandfather, I said, my voice calm as I folded the antenna back into the device. The purser, a veteran of 15 years who had seen every type of corporate climber, looked at my uniform, then at my face. She noticed, perhaps for the first time, the handcrafted platinum watch on my wrist, half hidden under the cheap polyester sleeve of the flight attendant uniform. It was a Patek Philippe, a piece that cost more than the entire aircraft's catering budget for a year. You're Helen Jones, the purser said, her breath catching. The Jones Group, the parent company. I am, I said, giving her a small, reassuring nod. And I apologize for the conduct of our general manager. It seems my family has been too lax with the administration of this airline. The aircraft tilted slightly as the nose pitched down, entering a steep, controlled descent toward Elvis Airport. The clouds outside the cabin window rushed past in a gray blur, the twin engines whining as the spoilers deployed to slow the massive Boeing 777. I walked back to the crew quarters, pulled my personal Rimowa suitcase from the overhead bin, and zipped open the side pocket. I took out a tailored charcoal suit by Celine, a silk blouse, and a pair of dark sunglasses. Within 10 minutes, I had changed out of the wet, stained flight attendant uniform. When I stepped back into the galley, the transformation was complete. The quiet, submissive trainee was gone. In her place stood the sole heiress of the Jones Group, her hair pulled back into a sleek bun, her posture exuding an authority that had been bred into her bones through generations of wealth. Rachel, I said, looking at the senior flight attendant who had tried to protect me. Take a seat. The landing might be a bit rough. Elvis Airport was a mid-sized regional hub, primarily used for private charters and corporate transfers. Today, however, the entire terminal had been cleared. As Flight G-1024 touched down with a sharp squeal of rubber, the spoilers fully deployed, and the thrust reversers roared, throwing water from the runway into a massive white spray. The captain didn't taxi toward the standard commercial gates. Instead, under direct orders from the tower, the massive aircraft turned toward the private VIP hangar on the south side of the airfield. Outside the hangar, a fleet of 6 black Rolls-Royce Phantoms was parked in a neat semicircle, their polished chrome grills gleaming under the gray afternoon sky. Standing in front of the cars was a man in a perfectly tailored 3-piece suit. He was holding a leather folder under his arm, his expression completely neutral despite the rain that had begun to fall. It was Simon, my grandfather's chief assistant. Behind him stood 30 private security guards in black tactical gear, their faces hidden behind dark visors. 10 minutes later, a silver Mercedes-Benz Maybach screeched to a halt at the security gate of the hangar. The gate guard, seeing the vehicle's corporate registration, hesitated for a moment before opening the barrier. The door of the Maybach flew open, and Carter stepped out. He was wearing a bespoke Italian suit, but his tie was slightly askew, and his forehead was slick with sweat. Beside him stood Eve, her eyes red from crying, her fingers clutching a designer handbag as she leaned heavily against his arm. Carter, you have to save my brother. Eve sobbed, her voice carrying across the wet tarmac. That bitch Helen must have used some cheap trick to get the captain to land. How dare she? She's just a probationary flight attendant. Who does she think she is? Don't worry, Eve. Carter said, his voice tight but filled with a desperate, self-assured anger. I'm the general manager of this airline. The board doesn't look at domestic disputes. Helen has crossed the line this time. Interfering with a commercial flight's route is a major corporate violation. I'll have her fired and sued for damages before the sun sets. He strode toward the aircraft stairs, which had just been rolled up to the cabin door. But as he reached the bottom of the stairs, Simon stepped forward, blocking his path. General Manager Carter, Simon said, his voice flat and devoid of any warmth. Please stop right there. Carter frowned, his brow furrowing as he recognized the older man. Simon was the personal assistant to the chairman of the Jones Group, the supreme ruler of the entire conglomerate. Carter had only seen him twice before at annual shareholder dinners where Carter had been forced to stand at the back of the room. Mr. Simon? Carter's tone instantly shifted, a nervous, oily smile appearing on his face. What are you doing here? This is just a minor internal disciplinary issue with one of our flight attendants. There's no need for the chairman's office to be involved. A minor issue? Simon asked, raising an eyebrow. He opened the leather folder under his arm and pulled out a single sheet of paper. A passenger attempted to contaminate cabin meals, threatened our crew, and claimed his sister, your assistant, could decide the employment of our staff at will. Is that what you call a minor issue, Carter? Eve stepped forward, her face contorted with anger. Who are you to talk to? Carter like that? Do you know who he is? He's the general manager. That flight attendant Helen was the one who started it. She's just his useless wife who got a job through the back door. Simon looked at Eve as if she were a piece of dirt stuck to his shoe. Miss Eve, Simon said quietly, I suggest you remain silent. The security department has already completed the audit of your corporate expense accounts. Before Eve could respond, the cabin door of the Boeing 777 swung open. I walked down the metal stairs, the wind catching the collar of my Celine suit. Rachel and the purser followed behind me, their expressions a mix of awe and trepidation. As my boots touched the tarmac, the 30 private security guards instantly stood at attention, their fists pressed against their chests in a synchronized salute. Miss Helen, Simon said, bowing 45 degrees. The paperwork is ready. Carter stared at me, his eyes widening until the whites showed around his pupils. The woman standing before him was not the quiet, domestic wife who spent her weekends baking cookies and waiting for him to return from his business dinners. This woman had the cold, sharp gaze of a ruler. Helen. Carter's voice shook. What is this outfit? Where did you get that suit? And why is Mr. Simon bowing to you? I didn't answer him. I walked to the front of the Rolls-Royce fleet, where a leather chair had been set up under a large black umbrella. I sat down crossing my legs and accepted a cup of hot espresso from an assistant. Carter, I said, taking a slow sip. You look tired. Eve, still blind to the reality of the situation, pointed a finger at me. Helen, you thief. You must have stolen that money from the family account. Carter, call the police. Look at her. She's pretending to be a big shot. Shut up, Eve. Carter suddenly roared, his hand trembling as he grabbed her arm. He wasn't stupid. He had been in the corporate world long enough to recognize the signs of an absolute power shift. The Rolls-Royce fleet, the private security, Simon's presence. None of this could be bought with a few stolen credit cards. Helen. Carter took a step forward, his voice cracking. Who are you? My name is Helen Jones, I said, setting the espresso cup down on the small table beside me. My grandfather is Arthur Jones, the founder and majority shareholder of the Jones Group, the same Jones Group that owns 80% of the airline you currently manage. The silence that followed was absolute, save for the hum of the auxiliary power unit on the Boeing 777. Carter's knees visibly buckled. He took 2 steps back, his face turning an ashen, sickly gray. The Jones Group, he whispered. But your family, you said your dad was just an ordinary businessman. My father passed away 10 years ago, I said calmly. My grandfather didn't want our family name to be used by social climbers, so we kept our true assets confidential. When we married, you swore to my grandfather on your knees that you would protect me. You said my family's modest background didn't matter to you because you loved me for who I was. I let out a dry, short laugh. But the moment you became the general manager, you forgot your promise. You thought you were the king of this airline. You gave the super VIP card, the one my grandfather personally signed, to a clown who uses it to abuse our flight attendants. Helen, I can explain. Carter lunged forward, but 2 security guards instantly blocked him, their batons drawn. Eve's brother has a heart condition. I only gave him the card so he could travel easily for his treatment. I didn't know he would do this. A heart condition? I tilted my head. Simon, read the file. Simon stepped forward, opening his folder. Jason Brown, 26 years old. Registered under the name Miss Jason in our VIP database. According to the medical records we just retrieved from the municipal hospital, he has no history of cardiac illness. However, he does have 3 active memberships at elite fitness clubs in LA and placed first in the women's division of the local trail marathon last week under a false ID. Simon paused, looking up with a cold smile. The birth control pills he claimed to take on the flight were actually estrogen supplements he purchased from an unlicensed clinic using the corporate credit card issued to his sister, Eve. Eve's face drained of color. She looked at Carter, her fingers shaking. Carter. That's a lie. Someone is framing us. Also, Simon continued, ignoring her, we have audited the corporate accounts for the general manager's office. Over the past 12 months, a total of $1.2 million was diverted under the guise of marketing research to an offshore account registered in Eve's name. This money was used to purchase a luxury villa in Malibu and several high-end designer wardrobe pieces. Carter turned slowly to look at Eve, his eyes filled with a mixture of horror and betrayal. You told me that money was for the promotional campaign in Europe. You said the agency required cash payments. Carter, I did it for us. Eve cried, grabbing his lapels. We were going to build our own company. You said you were tired of being controlled by the Jones board. Enough, I said. The security guards moved in, separating Carter and Eve. Simon walked over to Carter and handed him a heavy blue folder. This is the divorce agreement, Mr. Carter, Simon said. According to the prenuptial agreement you signed 5 years ago, in the event of proven infidelity or financial fraud, you will leave the marriage with absolutely nothing. All shares in Jones Aviation, your corporate apartment in Beverly Hills, and your personal vehicles are registered under the Jones Group. Have been repossessed as of 5 minutes ago. Carter looked at the document, his hands shaking so violently he could barely hold the paper. Helen, please, he sobbed, dropping to his knees on the wet tarmac. Don't do this to me. I made a mistake. I was tempted. Eve was the one who approached me. She told me you were too boring, that you didn't support my career. I still love you, Helen. Give me 3 years. No, give me 3 months. I'll fire her. I'll put her in jail myself. Eve's eyes widened in horror. Carter, what did you say? You promised we would get married next month. You said Helen was just a useless nanny you kept around to cook your dinners. Shut up, you bitch. Carter screamed, turning on her with a vicious snarl. If it wasn't for you and your stupid brother, I'd still be the general manager of this airline. You ruined my life. The scene was pathetic. 2 parasites turning on each other the moment the host body decided to shake them off. Just then, 2 police cruisers from the airport precinct drove into the hangar, their red and blue lights flashing against the wet concrete. 4 officers stepped out, accompanied by the sky marshals who were escorting Jason. Jason's hands were handcuffed behind his back, his Chanel suit wet from the rain, his wig slightly askew. He looked at Eve, his face filled with terror. Eve, they're arresting me. They said I tried to poison the passengers. The lead officer walked up to Simon, then looked at me. Miss Jones, we have secured the evidence. The canister of black truffle powder has been seized. Preliminary testing shows it contains a high concentration of unauthorized chemical additives and research chemicals. The suspect is being charged with endangering flight safety, which carries a minimum of 10 years in federal prison. Very good, officer, I said, standing up from my chair. And please arrest Miss Eve Brown as well. We are filing a formal complaint for corporate embezzlement and financial fraud in the amount of $1.2 million. No. Carter, save me. Eve shrieked as the officers grabbed her arms, pulling her away from the Maybach. Her designer handbag fell into a puddle, the expensive leather soaking up the dirty water. Carter remained on his knees, his forehead pressed against the cold, wet tarmac. He was weeping openly now, the rain mixing with his tears as he reached out toward my boots. Helen, please, don't leave me with nothing. I have a $70,000 debt on my credit cards. My parents' house is mortgaged to your group. If you fire me, they'll lose everything. I looked down at him. Before we got married, my grandfather told you that the Jones family values loyalty above all else, I said, my voice dropping to a freezing whisper. You knelt before him and swore that if you ever betrayed me, you would leave with nothing and never rise again. I turned my back on him. You fulfilled your oath, Carter. Enjoy your new life. Helen. Helen. His screams were cut off as Simon gestured to the security guards who quickly escorted him out of the hangar. The next morning, the board of directors of Jones Aviation held an emergency Meeting at the corporate headquarters in Los Angeles. The large conference table was filled with senior executives, their expressions serious, their eyes fixed on the empty chair at the head of the table. At 9 a.m. sharp, the double doors of the boardroom opened. I walked in, wearing a tailored navy blue pinstripe suit, my grandfather walking slowly beside me, his cane clicking against the polished marble floor. The executives instantly stood up, bowing 90 degrees in perfect unison. Chairman Jones. Miss Jones, they said in one voice. My grandfather walked to the head of the table, but he didn't sit down. Instead, he pulled out the high-backed leather chair and looked at me with a proud, gentle smile. Helen, he said, the stage is yours. I sat in the chair, placing my hands flat on the polished mahogany table. Gentlemen, I said, my voice echoing clearly through the room. As of today, Carter is no longer the general manager of this airline. His name has been removed from all corporate registries, and he has been permanently blacklisted from the global aviation industry. I looked at the projection screen, which displayed the company's organizational chart. Furthermore, we are restructuring our customer service department. The super VIP system is suspended immediately. No passenger, regardless of their card status, will ever be permitted to abuse or threaten our frontline staff again. If any passenger violates this rule, they will be blacklisted from our flights permanently. I turned to Simon, who was standing behind me. Simon, promote Rachel and the purser from Flight G, 1024 to Chief Training Directors for our cabin crew. They showed exceptional professionalism under extreme pressure. Understood, Miss Helen, Simon said, bowing. The executives in the room looked at each other, their faces filled with a sudden deep respect. This young woman was not just an heiress, she had the vision and the ruthlessness of her grandfather, the man who had built this empire from a single biplane. Are there any questions? I asked, my gaze sweeping the room. No one spoke. Excellent, I said, opening the first folder on the desk. Let's begin the review of the third quarter route expansion. As the meeting progressed, I looked out the floor-to-ceiling windows behind the table. Outside, a Jones Aviation aircraft was taking off, its silver wings catching the morning sunlight as it climbed steeply into the clear blue sky, heading toward a horizon that was entirely under our control.